Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to week 11 of your course for the BBA program, Advertising and Promotional Strategies. For week 11, I'll be talking to you about one of the topics designated for week 11, and this is connected with week 10, which was the last week. The topic is media planning and buying. Let me show it to you from the class course syllabus. So if you look at the course syllabus for week 10 and week 11, uh, we are supposed to focus on media planning and buying, which is something I'm going to be talking about uh, initially during this video lecture. And then later on, I'll be focusing on social media marketing and advertising. And in this regard, I'll be looking at some examples, and also I'll be sharing some links of online material that you will be required to watch and take notes. Uh, in connection with media planning and buying, which will be the initial part of my talk for this session, I'll be reviewing some key concepts through a PowerPoint slide. I will follow this up with a handout which has already been shared with you last week. The title of the handout is Adapt and Grow, the Role of Traditional Advertising Media in Pakistan. It has been written by Syed Amir Halim, who, is the, who was the business director of Ogilvy in Mathur, Pakistan, at the time when this was written. I'll also be showing you a couple of examples when I'm talking about social media, marketing and advertising. For example, the Pakistan Super League 2020. Even though the tournament could not conclude because of the coronavirus pandemic, but PCB, Pakistan Cricket Board, has had a very active social media presence. So we will be connecting some of the things we talk about with regards to social media advertising and digital advertising with the Pakistan Super League example. So with this, I will now start with the first part of the session. The topic is media planning and buying. Uh, in your syllabus, this is shown in as a topic within week 10, but it is being covered during week 11 because of the fact that it connects with the topic for week 11, which is social media or digital advertising. Uh, as far as this uh, session is concerned regarding media planning and buying, I'll be talking to you about some key concepts. They have been derived from your course book, which was shared with you at the start of the semester, especially chapter 11, 12, 13, and 14 of the course book. Uh, so, some of the topics that I'll be referring to have been derived from these four chapters. Additionally, some of the points that I'll be referring to are connected with my interaction with Mr. Talat Hussain. He is a journalist and media personality. Uh, I had the opportunity of interacting with him at LUMS Lahore. So, a couple of points that I'll refer to are based on the talk that he delivered regarding the media industry. Uh, when it comes to media planning and buying, the first component is media planning. Now, please remember that prior to this week's talk, we have already covered the three stages of the ad creation process, or how ads are developed or produced or created. Starting with creative idea based on the principle of creativity, which was the first major step. We followed it up with the second step, which is copywriting, and the third was connected with the design and production of any ad, using any media or platform. For example, print media, radio, television, and digital media. Uh, if you recall the discussion on media, ad production, ad design, I concluded that with the point that as a result of the design and production phase, uh, the advertising agency comes up with the final version or copy of the ad. If it's a digital or video based ad for television, obviously that is the final copy. If it's a radio ad, it's in the form of an audio file. If it's a print ad, it's in the form of a printed copy, for example, which is ready for printing in a newspaper, in a magazine, for a billboard, for a poster, for a banner, etc. etc. Once these ads are ready, the next very important step is the aspect of media. By media, we mean once you have this ad ready, which media platform will be used and how that will be used. There has to be careful planning done, or there's a need for careful planning when it comes to using various forms of media. So, in this regard, the most important point, which is under the consideration of any advertising agency and the sponsor or client, is which media to choose, how to base this decision of media choice, what considerations come into play, what are some of the technical dimensions. So, these are mentioned here. So, when it comes to planning for the media, there are some important strategy decisions that the advertising agency and or the client or sponsor have to take, and they have to give consideration. The first one is frequency. By frequency, and again I must tell you that these terms that I'm talking about are explained in the relevant chapters of your book that I pointed out at the start. So by frequency, what it means is uh, how often or how many times a particular message will be conveyed to the target audience. For example, if you watch an ad for Mobiling Jazz on a particular television channel, how many times will this ad appear? How often will it be shown to the audience? For example, during 24 hours, or during a week, or during a month. So this means frequency. Obviously, the higher the frequency, what it means is the more the message will be shown to the target audience. And this again connects with two things. One is that the higher the frequency, the more the cost uh, of media, because you will be spending more money as a client or company. And the higher the frequency, your message is going to have an increased probability that it will reach the target audience and it will serve the function of reminder uh, very often. So these are two important considerations. Second aspect is reach. Reach is a concept which is connected with frequency as well. By reach, we mean how many target audience members can a single message reach, or how many target audience can be conveyed the message uh, during a single display of the ad. So, for example, coming back to this concept of television or digital ad, if on Facebook uh, a company would like to reach uh, more audience or a large number of target audience, it will choose such Facebook platforms, or it will choose such digital platforms which have a higher frequency of visitors, and they have higher online traffic. So as a result, every time they put an ad or place an ad on a particular website or a particular page that has higher number of visitors, the reach will be higher as well. Similarly, on television, if there is a certain program, for example, a drama, which has very high um, viewership, so during the commercial break of that program, if an ad is shown once It means that it will be able to reach more people because of the fact that the drama has more audience or more viewership. Same is the case with newspapers or print. For example, if we choose a certain newspaper which has higher circulation, more readership, more popularity, obviously, because more people are reading that newspaper, more people are buying that newspaper, so it will have higher reach. But again, this connects with the same point of frequency that if you choose a particular medium, particular newspaper, particular television program, particular digital website or page, online page, which has higher viewership, the higher the cost as well, because of the fact that you are reaching out to more people. The more you reach, the more you pay as well. Next is the point of aperture, an important dimension related to media planning as well. By aperture, we mean that when it comes to media, whether print, digital, radio, television, or any form, one very important point to consider is that when an ad is shown or when a message is displayed or when a message is conveyed through this ad to the target audience, uh, how will we know that the message is reaching the right people, the target audience? Again, for example, let's take the example of detergent like Ariel or Surf, because Ariel or Surf have higher target audience segment in terms of the housewives, for instance. When we look at the situation in Pakistan, for instance, it will be very important that Ariel or Surf Excel choose those media or those outlets where their research, their findings suggest that greater number of housewives are present. So if you look across the television channels, for instance, those channels which are producing or showing content which is of greater interest to housewives, for example, dramas, it is likely that Ariel or Surf will choose those dramas. The reason is because, as per their estimate or understanding, they will be able to reach the housewives better through these dramas. So, aperture means finding that spot or point within the media where you feel as a brand, as a company, that you will be able to reach a higher number of your target audience. For example, again, coming back to this example of aperture, uh, during a cricket tournament or a cricket series, for example, T20 tournament, what kind of viewership is there? Is the youth watching a certain kind of cricket tournament more? If the answer is yes, so obviously those brands whose target market is comprising of youth will be focusing on acquiring ad space for their product for during the commercial break of those tournaments. So this concept is called aperture, and it's very sensitive, very important that the advertising agency and the sponsor understand the importance of achieving aperture. Next is the concept of TRP or television rating points. Now, please remember that out of the four major media formats, that is print, radio, television, and digital, uh, uh, the market share or the amount spent on advertising as far as television is concerned, it has been the highest as far as Pakistan is concerned. However, this trend of the bigger share of television as a medium when it comes to advertising budgets has been on the decline, and we see that the digital media is coming out very strongly in terms of capturing more of the advertising budgets or market. Um, Having said that, when it comes to television, the decision in terms of uh, how much to pay for a single unit of time of an ad. For example, if the ad is for 1 minute of any product, how much should be paid to the media channel or media outlet? For example, again, if there is an ad for a biscuit or a snack product, for example, cookies or chips, let's say assume the example of Lay's, and the ad duration is 1 minute. How much will be the how much will be the cost of 1 minute if the ad is shown on Geo News at 7 p.m. compared to the same ad being shown on Dunia News at 9 p.m. So this is a very messed up uh, activity in terms of determining the rates. So one important standard that has been used traditionally across the world as far as television industry is concerned is the concept of television rating points, or TRP. And this refers to this is based on a certain formula whereby the viewership of a certain program or a certain or on a certain channel is calculated using a basic formula. Now, to explain this a little further, I will give you the example or the procedure followed in Pakistan. There's a company by the name Media Logic, and you can check this on the internet later on. Media Logic has been for many years responsible for um, providing primary data or basic data to help calculate TRP. So, for example, in Pakistan, Media Logic has installed uh, specific devices called people meter, and I will talk about this a little later when I'm showing you the handout. The people meter is installed in different households across the country, for example, in Karachi, Lahore, Rawalpindi, Islamabad, and some other major cities. This people meter obviously cannot be installed in every household, so it's a small sample. But this people meter records people, households, viewing habits, and what kind of content, what kind of channels they watch, or what kind of programs they watch. So this device is attached to the TV, and it records the different viewing habits or preferences of the household members. And as a result, Media Logic generates regular data on in terms of which programs are being watched on which channel, which programs are being given more time as far as households are concerned, which programs are more popular, which programs are less popular. So using this data, Media Logic releases these figures in terms of viewership very frequently and every month. So using this data of who is watching what program at what time during the day on which kind of channel, this television rating point is calculated. And the higher the TRP, what it means is that this program with a higher TRP has more viewership, and as a result, if a brand wants to place its ad uh, for during the commercial break of a TV program which has higher TRP, obviously there will be higher cost or higher payment involved as well. Connected with TRP is the concept of CPM, or cost per million or cost per thousand. Uh, what it means is in different parts of the world, uh, costing is also done not just using the TRP formula, but also using the cost per million or cost per thousand. What it means is, and sometimes in some books, by the way, M stands for impressions also. When we say impression, impression means every time a single viewer watches or reads or hears one ad, that is called a single impression. So, for example, if you watch uh, or you come across the ad of Pepsi during 24 hours time, you come across the Pepsi ad 3 times, so this will mean 3 impressions. Now, usually when it comes to calculating costs for different media platforms, for example, print, radio, television, or digital, this formula of cost per thousand impressions or cost per million impressions is used. What it means is that when you are asking for rates from the media for a certain kind of ad, they can provide you the rates for 1,000 impressions. So, for example, a newspaper uh, is going to publish or print 1,000 copies uh, on a single day, uh, and you place your ad uh, on the front page of that newspaper, this will mean that 1,000 copies or 1,000 times this ad will be printed. Now, these 1,000 copies are going to reach to at least 1,000 people minimum who are going to read this newspaper. It is very likely that the actual readership will be higher than 1,000 because many other readers read the same newspaper. So let's assume that our formula tells us that every newspaper that is bought by one person is used or read by at least 5 people. So it is likely that one printing of your ad on the front page of the newspaper will reach to 5,000 people. So when you are asking for the rates from the newspaper management, they will quote you the price for 5,000 impressions or 5,000 viewerships. So this is a typical formula used for cost per thousand or cost per million impressions. Next important concept is time and space. Uh, Now, this is some which I will explain a little later using the idea of diversity and crowdedness. But here, for the sake of giving you an initial idea of what we mean by time and space, when we say media time, time relates to uh, the duration of the ad, and more importantly, the timing of the ad. When is the ad going to be shown, and for how long it will be shown? So this kind of connects with frequency and reach both, as discussed earlier. When it comes to space, this kind of suggests the breadth or the width of the media. Now, let me explain what space means. For example, a channel, TV channel, is going to be running its programs for 24 hours. Now, imagine that the channel is showing its programs at 1 a.m. past midnight, it is showing its programs at 7 a.m. in the morning, it's showing its programs at 12 noon or in the afternoon at 2 p.m. These 24 hours are a total space of that channel. Now, add this space to the space of other channels. For example, if Pakistan has 45 different TV channels, each channel is showing 24 hours of programs. So you can multiply the 44 or 45 channels with the 24 hours. This will give you the total number of hours, which is the total media space for local Pakistani channels in Pakistan. 44 channels multiplied by 24 hours of each channel. This is the total television media space for Pakistan. I am not including the international channels at this stage. Let's look at the radio. If let's say there are 15 radio stations in Pakistan or 20 radio stations in Pakistan, and each station is running its programs for 24 hours. Again, multiply the 20 radio stations with 24 hours. This is the total radio space. If there are 30 newspapers in Pakistan, each newspaper has, for example, 10 pages on average where you can print an ad. So 10 pages multiplied by 20 newspapers printing every day. So this is the ad space or media space for newspaper. If you look at the billboards, if let's suppose there are 20,000 billboards in Pakistan or 10,000 billboards across the country, this is the billboard media space or outdoor media space. So again, any commercial market, any plaza, any roadside location where you can put a poster, where you can put a billboard, where you can install a billboard, all this is outdoor media space. So space is a very broad concept, and what it suggests is that it's a very important point to consider, because when it comes to media decisions, the advertising agency and the uh, sponsor have to decide which particular spot within this space are they going to select. For example, when it comes to newspaper space, which particular newspaper, and within that newspaper, which particular page, the front page, the back page, the middle page, which one will be selected. So this is a space decision, and it is an important consideration. Moving further, I will be explaining the concept of diversity and crowdedness along with integrated marketing communications. These are all connected with media planning and buying decisions. So, for diversity, uh, I will be showing you some slides. Now, please remember that when it comes to media being called a diverse space, what does it mean? What is the nature of this diversity? So, for example, connected with some of the points I made earlier, Pakistan has a number of television channels, it has a number of newspapers, different radio stations. You also have the film and theater platform. People go to cinemas, people go to theaters in at least the big cities like Karachi, Lahore, and Islamabad. There are all kinds of print publications. There are thousands and thousands of websites. There are cable channels, which is again connected with the concept of channels. There are outdoor banners, mobiles, and word of mouth. So it's a very diverse space. It's a very complex space whereby it's not easy for advertising agencies or clients or sponsors to make this decision that within this very complex, diverse space, where to put their ad, where are their target audience, which kind of radio program or which kind of television channel or what kind of websites or social media do they watch. Uh, how do we locate them and how do we reach out to them? So this is a very important and complex decision. So it requires a strong understanding of this diverse space. So for example, just to add to this understanding of what we mean and how complex is this concept, just look at the concept of television channels. For example, there are channels which produce and show content in Urdu, and they have different geographic location or emphasis or area importance. For example, there are certain channels, TV channels, which are more popular in Karachi and Lahore, and maybe not that popular in Peshawar. Then there are certain other channels which are popular or equally popular across the major cities. But then when it comes to the urban rural divide, there are certain channels which might be more popular in the main cities, but no viewership or very limited viewership in the rural sectors or rural areas of the country. Um, and similarly, then you also have the regional language channels, for example, channels which are producing content in Pashto, in Punjabi, in Sindhi. So these have very area specific appeal. So it's a very complex media space out there, or a very diverse space. So there are, then you also have the local channels. For example, when it comes to cable facilities in Pakistan, cable channels, they also have their own local channels, and it's a very complex business. So how cable channels work, how the satellite channels work, then you also bring into this very complex mix the channels owned by or operated by Pakistan Television. So they have a uh, uh, they have most of their content is in Urdu, which has a very vast coverage area. So PTV is available across most parts of the country. Especially, it is available across those areas where the typical cable channels or these satellite channels are not available. You also have the PTV regional content, for example, PTV National or PTV Bolan and others, which have very specific location specific or city or area specific audiences. And PTV English, well, it has different name. For example, PTV World, that also has some viewership but very limited. So what it means is that even within one medium which is television, it's highly diverse. And then to further emphasize on this diversity, even within this television media, the nature of the content is also very diverse. So, for example, there are different categories of news. The concept of soft and hard news, public relations news. By hard news, we mean news which is supposed to give you factual information in terms of what happened during the day, what did the government do, what did the opposition do. Then the soft news is the uh, is the content which is not very dramatic. It is usually some report about a small event taking place somewhere. So all this information. Then there's all kinds of categorization. For example, prestige, infotainment, celebrity news, fun and games. Then within there's another category in terms of television content, which is the current affairs. So, for example, you have different kinds of current affair programs. Hardcore is what is happening in the country, what is hot topic, what is happening internationally. You also have a content, current affairs content, which focuses on crime related content or programs. There are news fillers, there's satire, where different comedians come on the screen and they mix up the comedic content with current affairs and so on and so forth. You also have the morning shows, religious content, food, sports. I mean, it is meant to tell you is that it's a highly diverse space. Uh, when it comes to radio, you have the FM stations with Urdu and English content. There are certain big university campuses having their own radio stations across in Pakistan, universities. There are organizational radios, although they have very limited listenership. Of course, the big player is the Pakistan Broadcasting Corporation, which has all kinds of content in different languages and dialects, and it also has its English content, Pakistan Broadcasting Corporation. So again, radio is a very diverse space as well. When it comes to newspapers and magazines, you have the dailies, the weeklies, in English, Urdu. You have regional newspapers printed in Sindhi language, Pashto language, etc., etc. Although print medium has been on the decline, but it is still having some presence across different parts of the country. Then you have monthly magazines, there are fashion, entertainment, infotainment publications, all kinds. So it's a very diverse space as well. When it comes to outdoor, you have the wall chalking, so anyone can write anything on a wall. Uh, Graffiti is drawn using the Urdu handwriting or English or any language. Then there are posters, there are road banners. Posters are usually uh, smaller in size, banners are bigger in size. You have the pamphlets, which are handed out to people in shopping malls, in others. Then there is a very important dimension of outdoor advertising connected with mosques also, and word of mouth. Word of mouth means just people out there in the open talking to each other about anything, and how rumors work, how fake news spreads. Uh, and again, one of the very important dimensions of this word of mouth is the electronic or e-word of mouth, which is again uh, how news or information, whether real or not real, whether true or false, how it spreads through different social media platforms. So this is again a very diverse space as well. And this kind of connects with our digital or online diversity. There are internet editions of different companies and websites. There are generic websites like Google, like Yahoo, for example. There are field specific websites. For example, there are websites which are for specific interest groups. For example, a website dedicated to fans of cricket or a specific sport. There are websites for followers of a particular hobby. There are professional websites, for example, for medicine or medical professionals, and so on and so forth. Then there are blogs. Of course, the Facebook is there, Twitter, and many other platforms. And when it comes to mobile apps, I mean, there is no end to it. There are so many different kinds of mobile apps. Some are more popular, some are not that popular. Just go to Google Play Store, you can download so many different apps. It's a very diverse space, and people using these mobile phones are experiencing extreme diversity in terms of different apps available for them to use. There are electronic magazines also. Most of these printed magazines in the past, they have shifted to their electronic versions as well. So this is again pointing out to a very diverse space. To further add to this is the example of social media, and I'm going to be talking about this in a while when I close this session and I focus on the social media or digital advertising. So, for further details, I'll be showing or pointing out a couple of videos for you to watch uh, in addition to my lecture so that you can understand digital advertising and digital media better. So, for example, just to illustrate, there was this movie by the name Social Network. It came out many years ago. It tells the story of how Facebook started, how Mark Zuckerberg came up with the idea of Facebook. It's a controversial movie in the sense that Mark Zuckerberg himself has not agreed to some of the content uh, shown in this movie. However, regardless of that, the movie offers very valuable lessons in terms of how we as consumers, as target audience, how we view the world, how we use the social media, how social media addresses some of our socialization needs, and it's a very takes us or it tries to explain to us a very important dimension of how we socialize through the digital medium, and how Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg understood this need for digital socialization early on, and that is why Facebook has been such a big success with billions of registered users. So what it suggests is that when it comes to media, print, radio, television, and digital, social media, which is a one major component or part of digital media, is extremely powerful, and it has gained a lot of followership over the last 5 to 10 years. And this is a signal to most brands that they have to embrace the social media, and they have to connect their brands and use social media to advertise and promote themselves. Second, very important dimension to this digital space is the concept of mobiles. And as I mentioned earlier, the mobiles offer you uh, they are a window to the world, so you can access anything and everything you're using your mobile devices. So there are thousands and thousands of apps which are available. The brands are attempting to penetrate our minds and reach out to us using these mobile devices, and that is why we are increasingly using this term cell phone with an S rather than C. What it suggests is that many companies are understanding or realizing the importance of using mobile platform to reach out to their customers for selling products. What are some of the implications or complications arising from this diversity? What it suggests or means to us, it means that one size campaign would not fit all. What it means is that any brand cannot simply produce single ad and believe that it can use print, radio, television, or digital, all platforms to convey the same message in the similar manner. It will not work. It's because of the fact that this media space is very diverse. There are too many variety of programs and content which is available to consumers. So you cannot simply design a single message and believe that every platform or every media platform will be useful or effective in terms of reaching out to the target audience. The message also has to be designed as per receptivity level, which is very important. Receptivity level means that uh, uh, how much the audience is going to be able to understand what you are telling them. How much are they going to be able to comprehend what you are telling them? For example, if you are going to show an ad during a cricket match, a T20 match. Now imagine the audience watching a match taking place between India and Pakistan. Lots of drama, emotions involved. The viewers are focused on the match. Every minute may be of crucial importance. Every second will be important. So people will have a very low receptivity level for an ad. So when the commercial break comes between 2 overs during a match, it is important that we do not show them a message or ad which requires them to pay a lot of attention. The reason is that they are not going to be willing to concentrate. Again, the reason is that they are more focused towards the match. So one has to understand that you cannot simply, uh, show a complex message or complicated message anytime or any media or any media space. You have to choose very wisely, and most importantly, you have to keep in mind the receptivity level of your target audience. If you produce or make an ad which requires more attention and focus on the part of the target audience, it may backfire. Language is the key. This connects with our discussion on copywriting. Remember, I told you that uh, uh, words have different psychological meaning. For example, the word bad versus evil, two words might be same, but one has greater intensity. So when it comes to Urdu language, words also have a psychological meaning. So language is very important, how you speak to your audience and how you convey your message. Because different audience are having different interpretations of different words. So this makes it very complex as well. Media kits for kids. What it means is that this kind of connects with my discussion or point about receptivity level. Dumbing down the content to pump up the volume. What it means is that the simpler and the shorter your message is, the more likely it will be able to reach greater number of people. So you have to dumb down the content. What it means is that you have to uh, simplify your content. Unfortunately, in the media industry, anything which is scandalous, anything which is dramatic, anything which is uh, exciting is going to get more attention or grab more attention. So the audiences have a very short attention span. They don't concentrate too much on a certain program or particular content because they have so much options or so many options to choose from. So you have to then dumb down or bring down the complexity of the content to generate more volume. By volume we mean more readership, more audience, more viewership. uh, and that is why we one of the dilemmas of media is that you do not see a lot of intellectual content or intellectual debate because that requires more effort on the part of the audience. And audience, there's this debate that audience is not really willing to uh, you know pay intellectual attention to content because simply of the fact that they have so many options to choose from, that they are jumping from one website to another website, from one TV station or channel to another. So it's very difficult to keep them captive or hold on with. Also, one an important application is that when it comes to campaigns for target audience, factors like age, region, the social class, the interest level, the emotional receptivity of the audience will also play a role. So these aspects are also uh, uh, factors which influence diversity and connect with diversity of the media. Coming towards the last few points of my talk, the second dimension is crowded space. Uh, by this, we mean that media is very, and this again connects with diversity also, that media is a very crowded space. It means that there is so much content, so many websites, so many channels, so many options to choose from that it becomes a nightmare, you can say, for any advertising agency or sponsor or company to decide which particular media space and time to allocate for its ad. For example, when we say crowded space, political talk dominates most of these TV shows. And if you watch on any evening, if you surf through different channels, most of them are talking about the same issues. And it's like constant bombardment of the audience with different views, opinions, not even necessarily facts, and so on and so forth. So it's really loud and crowded. Uh, there's a lot of focus on light entertainment, non-serious content, content which is not intellectually engaging, as I mentioned earlier. there's a lot of information overload. You have access to so much information that it becomes very difficult to differentiate between what is true and what is not true, what is fact and what is not a fact. So, because you are being bombarded, so this remains a key aspect of this crowded space. Helpline journalism keeps thoughtfulness away. What it means is that the uh, the way most of this content on television especially is presented is whereby the the host of a program, for example a talk show, he or she will portray himself to be a representative of the public or awam. So he or she is going to keep telling us or keep reminding us that he is on our side, and somehow the government or the uh, the agencies or the people who are responsible for running the country, they are in some kind of an opposite camp. So they are the TV presenters, especially, they present themselves as helpers, and as a result, uh, many of the issues that they talk about, they you know there's a lot of biasness which is created amongst the target audience or viewers of these programs, and we start believing that it's the government's fault in every aspect of our lives, and somehow these journalists or so-called journalists are on our side because they are trying to help us, they are trying to raise a voice for us. So this results in a lack of thoughtfulness and deeper understanding of very complex problems of Pakistan. And one last point is the follow-up flop is obvious. What it means is that because there is a lot of crowded space, a lot of content, different variety of programs, millions of websites, anything that you repeat, or for example, if you repeat a program second time on your channel, it will not have viewership, or it is very likely not to have viewership. So what it means is that channels have to constantly come up with new content. Websites have to constantly come up with new content. They have to constantly offer you variety. Even on social media pages, very important for them to capture your mind is that they have constantly come up with a variety of programs, content. Similar is the case with mobile apps. New apps are coming in, and replacing the other apps, and so on and so forth. So it's a very crowded space, and following up something with your existing product in the same shape or form of a product, it is very likely that it will not work. What are the implications of this crowded space? Just like diversity implications, it is all about engagement. In a crowded space, those brands who are able to engage their audience, those brands who are able to, keep their audience captive or keep them involved, they are the ones who are going to succeed. So media campaigns must not contain deliberate element of crisis management. What it means is that media campaigns should constantly be focusing on engaging the audience. They should not be focusing on complex messaging. They should not be focusing on presenting a very complex problem to the customer and hoping that the customer will pay attention. It's about dialogue, conversation, engaging with the audience, and talk to them or convey messages to your audience in such a way that they are willing to listen to those. So you have to understand, as an advertising agency, what is the audience, what the audience wants to listen to, and then you have to connect your message with what the audience wants to listen to. For example, on social media, many audience members who use social media use it for just entertaining themselves, or as a pastime, because they are free. They want to avoid boredom. So if the audience is accessing social media for entertainment purposes, or to overcome boredom, or just to relax, you cannot expect to send them a very serious message and believe that they are going to pay attention. So um, this is very important, that media campaigns do not deliberately go for such kind of serious or crisis oriented situations. Image building and positive positioning require constant vigilance. What it means is that if a brand wants to build its image and position itself in the mind of the audience positively, it will require to have vigilance on all dimensions of the media space. You cannot ignore any kind of information there on social media regarding your brand or on television regarding your brand, which gives bad publicity. So all these brands have to keep in mind that on the media space, crowded space, they have to be vigilant. They have to watch out for any kind of information which is being shown or presented, which gives a bad name. And that is why, when it comes to, for example, political marketing and political advertisements, for example, different political parties have their media cells, and the idea is that they're constantly keeping an eye on who is saying what is their opponent saying, how to counter that argument. So they are constantly engaging with people using these social media platforms. They are very vigilant and coming up with counter narratives to the messages of their competitors or opponents. Finally, media space is determined by media stamina. So, very important how much media space you're going to occupy as a brand, how many ads you're going to show, how much time you're going to uh, capture within the media space. Relates to campaign stamina. By campaign stamina, we simply mean the money that you have. The more money that you have to spend on advertising, the more campaign stamina or ad campaign stamina. So uh, this was the final point. Coming to the last slide for this talk, uh, this connects with the concept of integrated marketing communications. Now, keeping in mind that I mentioned that media is a very diverse space, media is a crowded space. You have the print media option, you have the radio media option, you have the television and digital media option. It's a very complex aspect of how you decide which media to choose, which not to choose. There are issues of TRP, there are issues of CPM, there are issues of frequency and reach and aperture, and so on and so forth. All this brings us to this final point, which is the concept of integrated marketing communication. What it means is that uh, in such a diverse and crowded space, it becomes very important for serious brands who have a marketing or advertising focus that they integrate their message across all these media options, all the diverse and crowded media space, in such a way that a singular message is conveyed. So, for example, if PTCL, Pakistan Telecommunication Corporation Limited, which is the provider of telephone connections and other digital connections, broadband, and so on and so forth, if they are going to promote their brand using this very diverse and crowded media space, it will be very important that they convey a single message about who they are, what kind of services or products they offer, what kind of benefits they offer, what are the attributes of their products, what are the beliefs and values of the brand, why they believe that their brand is important for target audience. So they have to integrate all this across different media options. They have to give a single message. So this concept of bringing singularity to your message using different media options, the diverse and crowded media space, this singularity of your message, focus of your message, this is called integrated marketing communication. And I'm going to talk about this during week 14 and 15 when I'm going to talk about the other promotional strategies besides advertising, that is personal selling, sales promotion, uh, digital marketing, and public relations. So that uh, will be the time when I'm going to explain integrated marketing communication a little further. So with that, I come to the end of the first and the major part of my video talk. Besides this, for week 11, as I showed you at the start of my talk, we are going to be focusing somewhat on social media marketing and social media or digital advertising. In this regard, uh, let me show you some content also. Before I do that, this handout also, which connects with the uh, advertising media in Pakistan. This was a handout which was given to you last week, and I had shared through the Google Classroom. This handout primarily focuses on how the media in Pakistan has changed or evolved over the last 10, 15 years, and what are some of the major changes that have happened. It tells us about five major dimensions of changes which have happened across Pakistan in terms of the media industry. The first point is that concept of measurement. By measurement, we mean, and this is something explained in the handout, and I'm sure you have read it. If not, you're required to read this handout. Measurement means that over the last 10, 15 years, the media industry in Pakistan, including newspaper, uh, publishers, radio station owners and companies, television companies, website companies, mobile app companies, and so on and so forth. They have developed this ability to uh, measure uh, the results of uh, uh, the audience viewership. And this is something provided in the handout. So, for example, if you refer to my example of people meter, uh, uh, which is provided in this handout, this one. If you watch read this handout, you would find that this has been explained. So this concept of people meter in the case of television industry, this allowed the measurement of the audience size, resulting in calculation of TRP or television rating points. So one very important change which has happened over the last 10, 15 years in Pakistan's media industry and across other media industries of the world is the ability to measure the audience size and to be able to determine the effectiveness or the reach of your ad or message to the target audience. When you are reading this handout, one more point I would like you to focus upon is the Gallup's diary system. I'm not going to explain this because it is explained in the handout and you are required to read this. Similarly, the second factor which has resulted in major changes in Pakistan's uh, uh, media industry with reference to advertising is the onslaught of cable and satellite channels. There are many options which have come up over the last 10, 15 years. In the 90s, early 2000s, there was only one major television channel, which was the PTV. Now there are so many options. Further add to this is the satellite channels which are available. So there's a lot of diversity and crowdedness as far as space is concerned. There are too many radio stations available. There are different kinds of newspapers which are publishing their content and so on. So there has been the third factor is there has been a growth in media spend and spend clustering. What it means is that more and more companies and sponsors and brands have started spending money on ad campaigns through these media platforms. So it is an industry which has grown a lot. Over the last 2, 3 years, one major change which has come is the strong impact of the digital media. For example, blogging, and so on and so forth. And as a result, as I mentioned at the start of my talk, a lot of media spending, which was traditionally more towards the television, has now been shifting towards the digital platforms, for example, YouTube channels, and so on and so forth. That is why you see that many of these, even television anchors and news reporters, they have started their own YouTube channels because they are also realizing or understanding the importance of or the growth of digital platforms like YouTube. So they are shifting more towards digital platforms where more digital advertising is taking place and there is greater viewership or increasing viewership. Point number four is better talent. What it means is that uh, over the last 10, 15 years, more and more qualified people who understand the technicalities of the media or industry They have come into the market with specialized skills. They have professional education. They have professional training. They are hired by different television companies, broadcasting companies, media companies, advertising agencies. They have the required background, they have research knowledge, they have market understanding, they have knowledge about customer preferences, and so on and so forth. So, better talent has come up, and that is why the media industry, because of the arrival of more relevant people with relevant talent, that is why the media industry has also evolved or changed. And finally, point number five is the media strategy becomes a component of brand planning. What it means is that more and more brands across Pakistan have realized the importance of uh, a media strategy, that they have to include a specific media strategy as part of their marketing plan or their brand planning or their overall strategic plan. So, because more companies are focusing on or understanding the importance of media, so brands like, for example, Angro Foods, brands like, for example, uh, companies like, for example, different commercial banks, all of them are realizing that they cannot simply ignore the use of effective media to, reach out to their target audience. So uh, they have included media strategy into their overall planning, and as a result, this means that they're allocating money for this purpose. And again, this means that more money has come into this business of media, and uh, this has also resulted in major changes and improvement to the media industry. So this was the handout, and again, the details are given in this document which you are going to be reading. Finally, coming to the last part of my talk, this connects with the topic social media marketing and advertising. I must point out that I will be discussing this topic during week 12 also to some extent, but for the time being, you will be required to do the following. With regards to digital advertising or social media advertising, you will be required to watch a video. I'm going to share the link of this video through the Google Classroom. Let me show you the link. Uh, this is a 19 minutes video whereby Professor Karthik Hosanagar, he's going to talk about digital advertising. So you will be required to watch this video and note down some of the key points he tries to explain with regards to digital advertising. Uh, and so again, I'm going to be sharing the link of this video. It's provided here. It's available on Course Era, and you can watch it for free. Additionally, if once you watch the first video, you can also watch another very important video about Facebook Ad Manager, which tries to give us an idea about Facebook's ad feature, how it works. And there are lots of videos available online. One of them that I've chosen for you is this is, by the way, Facebook's ad manager. This is called Facebook for Business, whereby you can find out a lot of information about how social media advertising works and what kind of options, for example, Facebook is offering to professionals who want to access digital platforms for advertising. Additionally, one video in this regard, the link which I am sharing with you is this one, Facebook's updated ad manager tutorial. I mean, you can watch this video. The presenter explains different features of the Facebook ad manager. So this will help you understand different dimensions of digital advertising or social media advertising. So this is a 23-minute video, and again, this is also part of your course. Uh, And finally, I'll be sharing one more handout. And by the way, these handouts and videos are connected with not just with week uh, 11, which is this one, but you can also have time for this during week 12 to work on this. So, for one more thing is this self-learning activity. Uh, the handout will be shared with you. The students are going to be required to log into Facebook, and they are going to be required to access this page, business facebook.com business/business/help. uh, I have just shown this to you a while ago, this one, and just go through this, look at different aspects, create ad campaigns, manage multiple ads, some of the features that Facebook is offering, just go through a review and develop a basic understanding of what is going on as far as Facebook's ad manager is concerned and the options that are provided. Once you go through this, then next, besides ads, Facebook allows users to create Facebook pages for promoting businesses. So some of the pages that I'm recommending for you to watch, and this is just a recommendation or suggestion. You can, look at some other pages, but for Peshawar, you will be required to just have a look at Melting Spot and Chai Khana, their Facebook pages, and sort of, compare these pages, two pages. One is for one restaurant, Chai Khana, and the other is for Melting Spot. There are, so many other different pages, but I'm just suggesting these to you. And you will be comparing this with the Facebook page of Peshawar Development Authority in terms of the structuring of the page, how the content is presented. So, for example, if I show you these pages, this is the page for Chai Khana. So, for example, there are 26,000 people who like this, and again, some of the content, how it's presented, how they're engaging with the audience, for example, the comments, the shares, and so on and so forth, these videos or the graphics, etc., how it is being presented, the content, for example, the menu, and so on and so forth. Similar is the case with Melting Spot, how their page is designed, how they are engaging with the community. 52,000 people like this. Obviously, this has relatively better penetration compared to Chai Khana, how they're presenting their content, visualizing different aspects of the page. You can call, you can go to their website, you can check different content, the photos, stores, posts, videos. All this is meant to do what? This is meant to do, it is meant to engage. If you remember when I was talking about media, the crowded and the diversity space aspect, brands are engaging their audience and using social media, they're advertising and promoting in such a way that their audiences can be engaged. So these 52,000 people, if they have liked uh, Melting Spot, it means Melting Spot can engage them. Similar is the case with Peshawar Development Authority. For example, there are 1,23,000 likes for this page, 126,000 followers, how they are, this is a public sector organization, so how they're presenting their content, what are the differences between their page and the pages of restaurants, for example, the two examples that I showed you, and so on and so on. And finally, have a look at PSL 2020. Uh, Now, you will find that this page is far more aggressive in terms of how it's presenting its content. There are about 40 lakh likes and 41 or 42 lakh followers for this, and how these different contents are presented, interviews, talks, humorous content, technical debates, so on and so forth. And some of the updates, even up till July 3, they have been updating, even though the tournament is not taking place. But it's very important for PCB to engage their audience, to keep people involved with the sport of cricket. So they are using this social media platform to engage. They have a YouTube link on their page. There are photos and videos and match highlights and interviews and post-match discussions and all kinds of different content. So all this is meant to engage, and that's the name of the game. The using this media, the brands are engaging with the target audience. So I'm going to be sharing this handout with you. When you are reviewing these pages of Melting Spot and Chai Khana, along with PDA or Peshawar Development Authority, there are 25 tips and tricks for marketing and advertising on Facebook. So you are going to be required to read or review these tips and connect with the uh, the three pages that I'm talking about: Melting Spot, Chai Khana, and Peshawar Development Authority. These are activities for week 12 also. So for next week, you will continue to review or read these handouts. You are going to watch some of these online pages or read through these online pages of Melting Spot, Chai Khana in PDA, etc., or PSL, and develop an understanding of digital advertising using uh, Professor Karthik's video on Coursera, as well as the Facebook Ad Manager explanation provided on in the YouTube video. So all the links to the YouTube video and Coursera video and these handouts I will be sharing through uh, Google Classroom. So with that, I come to the end of my talk for week 11. Thank you very much for your time. I'll be in touch with you during week 12. For week 12, we'll be talking about uh, the assignment and what you're required to do. So I'll be explaining that later on. Allah.